Engaging a new digital audience here online. JB here with you in the Stream Center. Viewer discretion is advised. These are live feeds coming in from the University of South Florida. A 5 o'clock deadline has passed, a deadline for the what is called an unlawful assembly there by the Sheriff's Office negotiator. A 5 o'clock deadline has passed now by about 15 minutes. We'll continue to listen in here live. We'll also be bringing in Eagle 8 HD.
Please do not resist arrest or any other enforcement action which could result in a risk of injury which may occur. Please consider yourself under arrest for refusing to disperse. Please do not resist arrest or any other enforcement action which could result in a risk of injury which may occur. Assistant Chief Marquis of the University of South Florida Police Department. This assembly has been declared an unlawful assembly in accordance with Chapter 870.04 Florida State Statute. You've been given a lawful order to disperse. You have refused to follow this lawful order. At this time, please consider yourself under arrest for refusing to disperse. Please do not resist arrest or any other enforcement action which could result in a risk of injury which may occur. Assistant Chief Marquis of the University of South Florida Police Department. This assembly has been declared an unlawful assembly in accordance with Chapter 870.04 of the Florida State Statute. You have been given a lawful order to disperse. You have refused to follow this lawful order. At this time, please consider yourself under arrest for refusing to disperse. Please do not resist arrest or any other enforcement actions which could result in risk of injury which may occur. On behalf of Assistant Chief Marquis with the University of South Florida Police Department, this assembly has been declared an unlawful assembly in accordance with Chapter 870.04 of the Florida State Statute.
As we see one person taken away in handcuffs there at the University of South Florida. JB here with you folks in the Stream Center, monitoring several different live feeds coming in from the University of South Florida. We'll take you back there with full audio in just a second, but I have to pop in here every few moments and remind our live audience that viewer discretion is advised. This is a live situation unfolding nearby, not too far away from us here in the Stream Center, over here in Tampa, Florida at the University of South Florida. So this is clearly an unfolding situation. There has been a warning given for really the last hour or so plus about unlawful assembly, and a 5 o'clock deadline has passed now by approximately 19 minutes. So things beginning to escalate, and as they do, one more time, viewer discretion is advised here on the live stream.
For refusing to disperse. Please do not resist arrest or any other enforcement action which could result in risk of injury which may occur. If you choose to say chemical munitions will be utilized. University of South Florida Police Department. This assembly has been declared an unlawful assembly in accordance with Chapter 870.04 of the Florida State Statute. You have been given a lawful order to disperse. You have refused to follow this lawful order. At this time, please consider yourself under arrest for refusing to disperse.
And the first canisters of tear gas have been fired. You can see that the students, the demonstrators, using umbrellas to block out the tear gas. We've also been told about rubber bullets. As a reminder, viewer discretion is advised.
Stay back. Thank you.
I don't want to see right now. If you keep going, you keep going. No, she's not. Look at you and put your hands on them. I'm not.
Hey, don't come any closer. No. If you come closer, we're going to jail. It's simple as that. I've got time.
Do you need me to call anyone? Yeah, can you call my mother? I don't know how. Here, hold on. I'll not share that info out loud. Fuck that shit. Here.
No, she's not going there. You're not going over there.
I need to get her mom.
You heard what he said. You heard what I just said. Okay, you heard what I said. She's an adult. Deal with it. Let her deal with it. Okay? Goodbye.
Assistant Chief Marquis of the University of South Florida Police Department. This assembly has been declared an unlawful assembly in accordance with Chapter 870.04 of the Florida State Statute. You have been unlawful order to disperse. You have refused this lawful order. At this time, please consider yourself under arrest for refusing to disperse. Please do not resist arrest or other enforcement action which could result in a risk of injury which may occur.
I literally just said I will. Let me go.
Of Assistant Chief Marquis of the University of South Florida Police Department, this assembly has been declared an unlawful assembly in accordance with Chapter 870.04 of the Florida State Statute. You have been given a lawful order to disperse. You have refused to follow this lawful order. At this time, please consider yourself under arrest for refusing to disperse. Please do not resist arrest or any other enforcement action which could result in risk of injury which may occur.
Let him go. Let him go. Let him go.
On behalf of Assistant Chief Marquis of the University of South Florida Police Department, this assembly has been declared an unlawful assembly in accordance with Chapter 870.04 of the Florida State Statutes. You have been given a lawful order to disperse. You have refused to follow this lawful order. At this time, please consider yourself under arrest for refusing to disperse. Please do not resist arrest or other enforcement actions which could result in risk of injury which may occur.
JB back here with you in the Stream Center, folks, and a lot of questions I see in the comment section. One more time, again, viewer discretion is advised. The live scene unfolding at the University of South Florida. A 5 o'clock deadline was established for the what police call the unlawful assembly to disperse, a free Palestine protest that is now in its second day. As we see here, sheriff's deputies on bicycles riding through campus. We saw several protesters be taken into custody, presumably under arrest for, again, unlawful assembly. And there were a lot of questions in our comment section pertaining to what makes this an unlawful assembly. I'm going to read this here from WFLA.com, where, of course, we have all of our latest reporting on this. Supporters of Israel stood close by. Monday's protest of the words "Free Palestine" echoed through campus. University of South Florida leaders said that they support peaceful protests on campus. They called this most recent act disruption because it involved an attempt to make a permanent Gaza solidarity camp with tents on campus. The school said that the group hosting the protests had been on interim suspension for disrupting campus last week, and they should not be holding these protests right now. They said that students were also warned multiple times not to bring tents. Let's go back here to Eagle 8 HD. We see that there are some individuals who are now running through campus. Again, I've spotted at least 4 individuals taken away in handcuffs, presumably under arrest, taken into custody by the anti-riot team that has been assembled here at the University of South Florida. So again, actually we have a now live feed from the ground. The deputies on bicycles making their way through campus, all headed in one direction here. Again, viewer discretion is advised as a result of this being a developing scene, a live feed of a developing scene where anything could happen at any moment. We'll continue to listen in as we're here in the Stream Center monitoring this from Tampa, Florida. We'll go back split screen here, show you Eagle 8 HD on the left and our camera team on the right. I had a conversation with our team members who were covering this right before actually the 5 o'clock deadline. And a lot of conversations were had about keeping our news crews both on camera and off as safe as can be. We have some veteran photojournalists here at WFLA, who have been through a lot of stories in past years, and of course we appreciate the work that they do in providing coverage here, documenting what is going on at the University of South Florida. So here you can see that deputies have a lot of that attention. Where we saw deputies on bicycles, they were headed in this direction. It appears to be in the direction of a parking garage on campus. Also, you can that was a student taking a selfie. There's a student that you can see laying flat down on his stomach. And a lot of students have their phones out. You just saw one student there taking a selfie. Not sure it's the most appropriate time to be taking selfies. But point being is that everybody here is getting out their phones, documenting what is going on. And clearly we have our live feed, but no doubt social media is going to be chock full of various videos showing different angles of not just this protest, but one of the dozens of protests that have been taking place across the country, protesting the violence that is occurring in the Middle East, of course, between Israel and Gaza. University of South Florida just on a growing list of campuses that have seen escalating demonstrations over the course of the last several weeks. So we're looking here at a parking garage, but we'll bring up Eagle 8 HD here, and we would show you that things have begun to quiet down as that once, growing demonstration on the University of South Florida campus is no more. We're looking here at live aerial footage, and you can still see that there's still a lot of folks down there, but it's not the group that we had earlier that was locked in arms, prepared with umbrellas to block away tear gas canisters or rubber bullets that we saw fired here on the live stream. Things have been broken apart. Of course, that being the design of local authorities to break up what has been described as an unlawful protest, unlawful due to being warned repeatedly to not set up a permanent camping site with tents. And you saw the students there as well responding that they have a right to free speech, that they have a right to express their beliefs. And the students, of course, the demonstrators believing that they have a right to assemble. And clearly, based on what we have seen unfold over the last hour and really going into yesterday, this is day 2, that this is what authorities have described as unlawful assembly at the University of South Florida. Let's go live, hit the touchscreen here. We'll take it back to our camera team on the ground, just kind of giving us a view quite literally on the concrete of University of South Florida, showing us what is actually going on the ground right now. And I'm sure it'll be some time before things are back to some sense of normal, but for what it's worth, this is what it looks like right now on the ground in Tampa, Florida at the University of South Florida. Let's bring up audio full. We'll continue to listen in. I'll be monitoring the comment section, Facebook Live, YouTube Live here on WFLA.
Did George tell you about DJ, about the fact that they started chasing after DJ? I'm not sure.
Fuck you, kid! Fuck you!
Are these belonging to foreign one?
Yeah.
They saw some of the
What did she do?
So I might be wrong, but I don't think they got him. But we're not sure. Right now, and now the cops are running after someone else. I don't know who it is. I'm sorry. I feel like you can play my play. Jordan!
Right here.
There you go. I assume.
Who's that guy?
You could hear that one young woman there on the phone talking to somebody saying, I don't know if they got him. I don't know if they got him. You see there also off in the distance that there's a lot of attention now being paid down this walkway. Yeah, and clearly our photographer here is now seeing that and heading in that direction. But a lot of folks on phones right now trying to find out who was taken into custody by authorities and who as well was able to escape without handcuffs around their wrists. Let's go back here live, though, and see what's going on. A large group forming here on this section of campus. Again, viewer discretion advised.
Everybody's got to go. Go! Go! Go!
A lot of our commenters here, for those of you joining us on YouTube Live, Facebook Live, I see that you're commenting along a lot, talking about the size of this response at the University of South Florida. It's a mix-up, I would say a gathering of university police. It looks like sheriff's deputies, might be Tampa police as well. Just a lot of different law enforcement represented. But, you know, trying to figure out how many law enforcement officers there are to demonstrators and what that ratio looks like, because it does appear to be quite a large response by local authorities. I've counted at least 3 dozen law enforcement personnel on the ground. A lot of them carrying, you can see there, what appears to be non-lethal weapons, you know, things that, you know, firearms, for example, that would fire rubber bullets, tear gas canisters, as we saw earlier on the live stream. But it is a sizable response here by local authorities. It's hard to say exactly how many demonstrators there were. They were bunched up so close. I mean, they were literally locked in arms earlier, and we were trying to get a better count as to how many there were. But I was able to count at least 3 dozen law enforcement personnel part of this response. You can see them there with shields. In fact, let's go back live here and show you this full screen. Bring up audio. Again, viewer discretion is advised.
Tell you one more time, you're going with us. That way, now. Now. It's time to leave. You've been warned. Numerous times you've been warned. Numerous times. Enough things, bro. Get out. I am working with you guys. I don't need you to work.
We don't take the right route right now. We're going to jail.
It should be noted that we're seeing a lot of students, and I think faculty as well. We're seeing a lot of different members of the campus community on this live feed, but it's very obvious that not everybody who we're seeing here who have gathered nearby were part of the demonstration. Clearly, there are a lot of University of South Florida students who just came out to see what was going on. I mean, again, this is day 2, and there's been a lot of buildup because after the events of yesterday with 3 University of Florida students arrested, there was the indication that they would continue demonstrating into day 2. So word is starting to get out around campus. You can clearly see that a lot of folks, both students and faculty alike, are either looking out of their windows or they're, you know, coming out of their buildings, you know, taking a look at to what is unfolding on their campus. It's as actually looks like we've got somebody being taken away to Or no, okay, I'm sorry. I thought that was somebody on stretcher for a second behind those trees. That's clearly equipment and supplies, likely from, again, the tent gathering that was growing on campus as part of the demonstration. But word was spreading around campus. Word was getting out on the local news, including on WFLA, and you can clearly see this has grabbed and captivated a whole lot of people, grabbing a whole lot of attention at the University of South Florida. People who are out with their phones, shooting video, and might not be part of the demonstration at all, just wanting to see what is unfolding on their campus after seeing what has unfolded on other campuses across the country, making national and international news in the process. Would also like to take the opportunity to clear up. There appears to be some confusion in the comment section, and especially for those who are joining us outside the viewing area. This is not the University of Florida. This is not UF. So this is the University of South Florida, which is actually not, and it can be a little confusing. It's not located in the South Florida that most people think of when they think of South Florida. South Florida, most people think of Miami. This is live from Tampa, Florida, the home of the University of South Florida, where, of course, these demonstrations have unfolded over the last 48 hours. And so the University of Florida, the Gators, which is probably one of the more well-known schools, I think, nationally and internationally, that's up in Gainesville to our north, really, north of Tampa and Orlando. One more time, this is the University of South Florida, Tampa, Florida, where these protests have been unfolding over the last day or so. Again, live from Tampa, Florida, here on WFLA Now, and clearly my estimation of how many law enforcement personnel are on scene, it clearly way off. I originally, when the response began, and again, we had a very, particular specific viewpoint from where the media was gathered, I counted about 36 law enforcement personnel. It's clearly way more than that, as we now are getting our team walking around campus and showing different spots, different areas. So a very large, robust response on day 2 of these protests. And in all details, anything that you're looking to know about, you can find it on WFLA.com, the WFLA app, where we're reporting and documenting what is going on here at the University of South Florida. So if you're looking for information, it's on our website, WFLA.com. Continue to listen in here from just into the newsroom moments ago as we continue to watch the scene unfold here from our own Lenny Supal. As of right now, what we've been told by by officials on the ground that at least 6 arrests at the University of South Florida. And that adds up with what we've been watching here on the live stream, with the amount of people that have been taken away with their hands bound behind their back with handcuffs on. So it was 3 yesterday. We've already doubled that, and I think that number is probably, we could expect that number to grow based on what we have seen here on the live stream. We were trying to capture everything that was going on all around us. However, can't be everywhere at once. So right now, at least 6 arrests at the University of South Florida. As the 5 o'clock deadline, it's important to remind our audiences that a 5 o'clock deadline was established to disperse, for folks to go home. What was described as an unlawful assembly by authorities. The 5 o'clock deadline came and went. It was, put out by the sheriff's office negotiator that if they did not disperse by 5 o'clock, tear gas, rubber bullets, different methods would be used to disperse and break up the tent gathering, what was described as the Free Palestine protest. And the 5 o'clock deadline came and went. There were more warnings issued at roughly 5:10 or so, and then by 5:15, that's when the tear canisters began to fly, and we saw the demonstrators begin to run, and that tent gathering broke up pretty quickly. And now there have been subsequent arrests, and of course we'll keep posted all night long and into the morning hours as to how many people have been arrested, what the charges are, so on and so forth. That'll all be on WFLA.com. But it would appear that most of the the de-escalation is still underway, clearly, and you would imagine that police deputies will be here for some time, monitoring things on the University of South Florida campus. I'll share a note for our audience. I'm surprised we were able to get as close as we were in certain moments. Now, we have some veteran photographers who have been with WFLA for quite some time, who know how to, take precaution. And but my goodness, we were feet away from a lot of this as this was unfolding, and we're just kind of zooming in here. So really, very appreciative, of course, of the camera crews that have been providing us with all of this video that was to show us this. And I know this is obviously tremendous concern to parents who send their students to the University of South Florida. Anytime that you see a campus in turmoil like this, it's going to set off a lot of alarm bells, not just with parents, but extended family, faculty. And you would imagine that phones are ringing off the hook, texts are being sent left and right, and also too, you would imagine that a lot of videos now are surfacing on the internet where they're not just going to be viewed here in Florida, they're going to be viewed across the country and around the world. If one of the goals for the Free Palestine demonstration at the University of South Florida was to show solidarity with other campus protests occurring here in the United States, and to show solidarity and get the word out across the country, that's doable with modern technology. Within seconds. I would be very curious to know if any of the students or demonstrators that were gathered as things were flying, as we saw tear gas canisters flying. Again, we heard about rubber bullets being used as things escalated there significantly about half an hour ago now. I'd be curious to know if any of those demonstrators were on a live stream. Live transmitting their video as that was all unfolding. Clearly, we had it on the live stream here as well. So literally, you can watch these protests and demonstrations that they're occurring in real time online, and people can watch them not just here domestically, but also too around the world. And this is clearly a story that is international in nature. And so a lot of this continues to unfold on campuses across the country, and that includes right here in Tampa, Florida at the University of South Florida. Somebody asked in the comment section, is this the University of Tampa? No, this is, again, the University of South Florida. UT is another college campus right here in Tampa, Florida. However, this is the University of South Florida, located in Hillsborough County, Tampa, Florida, in the United States.
What are they going to block it?
Will they actually use tear gas?
Well, obviously, I don't think like there's a
ends at 5, and it sure ended shortly after 5. I'll let you take a look right now
You can see this sort of rubble left in a pile. That's what's left of their protest. They had those tents ready. What happened was they stood in a circle and locked arms in solidarity and held up these wooden boards they were using as shields. And in between, in the middle of that, they held up these tents. And they thought they were going to be here all night. But as soon as things really started to escalate, that's when they began to disperse. If we pan over, you can see there are still several law enforcement standing guard. Now I can say that it has quite calmed down, but just take a look at this. This is what happened when they threw that tear gas out and everyone dispersed. And the most interesting fact is they had been telling me throughout the day that they were ready for the tear gas. They planned it. One of them even came over and gave me a water bottle that had a hole in the top, and they gave me all these step-by-step instructions on what to do if I get tear gassed and how to save my eyes. And you can see in this video, it just didn't last long, and they surely did not stay here overnight, and not even past long when these things really started to kick up. What I can tell you is they had 4 demands that they were protesting for. The first was from USF to disclose any investment information to the student body. The second was to divest from Israel. The third was to come out with a statement in solidarity with Palestinian and Arab students. And the fourth was to stop what they called attacks on the student movement. Now, as we go throughout today, I could tell you that we have seen several people being detained. When they had those Tampa police bikes come through, we saw them running over people, and I think we've seen at least 6 people be detained. Of course, we will continue to get you those latest numbers and the latest updates on this active situation here at the University of South Florida as the day continues. Those will be live on air and on our free WFLA app. Stacy?
That was Nicole Rogers reporting in the 6 o'clock news. Figured I would just pop over to that feed and share that with you. So this is the remaining scene. Actually, is that a... Over there on the right, it would appear there was a group of students wearing sashes. Curious what that was about. But this is the remaining focal point. You can clearly see that my original estimation of 3 dozen officers, law enforcement personnel, it was just way off. It's a sizable response here, a significant one. Are they taking a picture? They are posing for a photo with the sheriff's deputies behind them. I'm curious as to what this group is. And well, they better snap their photo quickly, because it would look like the deputies are leaving the area. All right, so now here come the students, and it looked like, okay, so now they're going to pose in front of the fountain. Yeah, I can't help but that was an interesting way to perhaps end out our live feed. We'll bring in one more shot, our last remaining feed, if I can bring it in here. And it's clearly one of our photojournalists who has their camera on their shoulder. So I will. Looks like I think that they're gathering interviews now. You know what? I'll monitor that, and if there's any interview that takes place on that path, I will pull it up here live from the stream center so we can tap into that feed and you can hear some of the interviews taking place. But that appeared to be one of our teams out there talking to students about doing potential interviews, what's called in the industry man on the street interviews, just gathering random interviews from people that witnessed something, and that is in fact what's happening. So let's listen in here live.
It's ridiculous. So I do post on my social media. There's places to get bail, so I posted that on my social media. So it's just like I'm for Palestine. Like, you know, it's hurtful. You know, I went to the march in Washington D.C., one of the biggest ones. I did protests in Tampa, like towards the beginning, and it's ridiculous that something like this is still going on. And now students are involved, and we're teaching our future, our kids, what's right and wrong, and this is how cops are reacting, and how is any of this okay? And even if you don't know what's going on, in general politically, people are getting killed. Everyone sees it. Social media is there now too. Like, everyone sees everything going on. Yet, how are we validating, and how is like cops and how are we stopping something like this? When Black Lives Mattered, when stuff like that came along, right? Like, it's like a recycling of horrible situations, and we're still being okay with it. And it's just a mess. And
were you out here on the lawn?
I just got off of work. I work in Moffett over there.
Okay. You've been part of demonstrations over the last few months, and you're seeing the response from law enforcement. When you came on campus and saw that, what was your reaction?
It was kind of shocking. It was kind of ridiculous seeing a fraternity take a picture in front of it. Like, it's a show for some people, and it's reality for others. So.
And the response, when you see people who support the same cause that you're supporting, and law enforcement out here, full protest gear, riot gear on the school campus. Concerning?
Extremely concerning. Extremely. So it's surprising, and I'm surprised I'm here and seeing something like this myself. Like that? I'm surprised I'm seeing this, like with all this going on right now. I never thought I'd see this. That's why I took a picture of it. It's like, well, how is this happening at the campus that I'm an alumni part of? Like, it's not surprising.
Do you think you'll see any progress?
I hope. Seeing all these schools, all these students, seeing the youth involved this much, it gives me a lot of hope for the future now, because it's nice seeing it now. It's more than just Palestinians. Now it's more like human rights right now. So yeah, I have hope.
What was your name?
Anisha.
And spell it out for me.
Anisha.
Last name?
Nazrul. Nazrul.
Okay. And you went to school here?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we'll monitor that feed if there's any other interviews. Usually our reporter and photographer tandem will try to gather as much as quickly as possible in a bunch. So I would imagine that the next one is up. I'm monitoring the feed here. Also monitoring your comments here from the Stream Center. A lot of confusion and then a lot of opinions just flying back and forth, as you would expect with a story with two sides, and such well-defined sides that are clearly at odds and have been at odds for some time. So as a reminder, please be kind and respectful in our comment section. Thank you to our moderators who are helping us. Make sure everyone has the right to express their opinion, of course, but do so in a respectful way. And of course, just keep it clean, folks. Keep it clean in our comment section. There's always a place in our comment section for discourse. And it's always possible, of course, to agree to disagree, but there's a line, and when that line is crossed, we, of course, pay very close attention to that to make sure that our comment section is kind and welcoming to all. So not seeing any other interviews taking place just yet, and once we run out of feeds, we do have one feed still up. Eagle is down as a result of having to refuel. So, in fact, let's go to that one remaining feed. You can see that there are some police personnel just casually chatting. as a result of what has just unfolded at the University of South Florida. Again, our own Lenny Supal reporting that approximately 6 arrests, or at least 6 arrests, at the demonstration here in South Florida. Again, day 2 of these demonstrations. I'll be very curious to hear if the students and the individuals who have organized the tent gathering, the Free Palestine protest, that demonstration that has unfolded yesterday and into today, if that will continue into a day 3. Clearly, things escalated into today, and there was a much larger response, a more robust response here today. We would hope that things don't get any worse, and you would hope that students and faculty and everyone who want to be able to have their voice heard, that they can do so lawfully, exercise their constitutional right. But again, as a reminder, and as we reported on WFLA.com, this was, according to the University of South Florida officials that spoke to WFLA, this was an unlawful assembly as a result of a permanent tent gathering that was set up on campus, what was called a permanent Gaza solidarity camp with tents. They were told that they should not be holding the protest. They were placed on interim suspension, told not to bring tents multiple times, and as a result, of course, local law enforcement showed up and ruled it an unlawful assembly, at which time they dispersed it about 5:15 today. So I'll look here for any final questions or comments. You can use #KJB to get my attention in the social media comment section. Otherwise, the comments are almost impossible to read because of how quickly they come in. But if you use #KJB with your comment, it's easier for me to grab and read and address. So just a quick final call for any comments before we wrap up the live stream here. Again, you can do that on Facebook Live or on YouTube Live. The classic vehicle rolls right into the cameraman shot. Yeah, been there. So now our camera crew will move on over to get a shot of really whatever is left from this scene. But yeah, on the right there, that is what remains of that tent gathering, by the way. All the tents and supplies and various items that were brought for this to be an extended showing of solidarity at the University of South Florida. And that quickly was, it broke up pretty fast as a result of the tear gas. And I can't say for certain that rubber bullets were fired until we hear from those on the ground specifically to that point. But clearly tear gas canisters were flying. In fact, you could see in the first piece of video that they threw, one of the demonstrators tried to take the canister and throw it back in the direction of law enforcement. All right, so looking for any hashtag-based comments, and then we'll wrap up our live stream. Again, we share opinions here. P2's opinion, if I can bring it up, hopefully I can. Oh, no, here it is. Hold on. Says a waste of Florida tax dollars. How many police? I hear helicopters. Yeah, so at least one helicopter was us. And I didn't get on flight radar. I didn't see how many choppers that there were. But you're right. It sounded as if there was more than one. So there was our helicopter. You would imagine that there was a law enforcement helicopter. There could have been another media helicopter with another media organization in the air as well. How many police? Oh my goodness. Because our cameras were all over the place and because of just the scene being chaos, it's hard to say. Also, too, from Eagle, from our aerial view, there was a lot of trees covering that area, so it was difficult to see exactly how many officers, how many deputies, how many university police were there, but it was a lot. It was a significant amount of law enforcement. Perhaps our reporters on the ground will be able to give us a more specific number at some point here in the not-too-distant future. Do you think that there was more? just give me a yes or no in the comment section. I'd be very curious. Do you think that there were more law enforcement personnel than demonstrators? Yes, there were more law enforcement, or no, there were more demonstrators. I'm just curious, based on people who have been with us here since near the beginning of the live stream, what everybody thinks. Again, P2, it's of one of our commenters' opinion that it was. But look, it has to be stated, there was a sizable law enforcement response. Of course, law enforcement is paid for. It's publicly funded, so. Yeah, let's see. Let's get to. I'm seeing a lot of yeses. Yeah, it was a lot, or we have the feedback. It was a lot of law enforcement personnel. There was the initial response, and then the response almost, it felt like it grew in that hour between 4:30 and 5:30. There you can see a K9 on scene as well. Final call for any comments before we wrap up the stream. Hexaroot says, hashtag HJB, I'm a student at this college. I left yesterday after my final exam. They were putting stickers and graffiti on campus everywhere. I knew eventually it would descend to this. That's very, very interesting. One of our commenters claiming to be a member of campus here at USF. And not surprising for Hexaroot, because if you have the feeling it's going to descend to protests and demonstrations, I mean, let's just look at what's happening across the country. Stand by, muting mic. All right, mic's back up. Yeah, we have lost all feeds. This comment here, Athon, hashtag AJB, are you aware of how the protest was determined to be a riot or unlawful? It was determined to be, other than a feeling, yes, it was determined to be an unlawful assembly as a result of University of South Florida officials basically indicating that that a permanent camp on campus with tents was prohibited, and after multiple repeated warnings to not have a permanent protest with tents on campus, and what was described by university officials as being disruptive, after multiple warnings, those warnings, based on, of course, everything that we have been told, went unheard, that deadlines and warnings passed without any changes to the actual, camp. And so as that demonstration grew and the instructions to disperse were ignored, it was determined to be unlawful assembly, and that was when we saw law enforcement step in. Now, it's of everyone's individual opinion as to whether or not that they think that is right or wrong, but that, of course, is based on what officials have described to us. It was considered to be a prohibited gathering, and so that's how it escalated from that to this. Hopefully that makes sense. I want to point out that I have covered lawful protests, or protests, I should say rather, demonstrations that have ended without incident in the past, here and at other stops in my career, it is possible to exercise your right to free speech and do so lawfully, whether or not the conditions for this, whether or not the conditions were fair, I think come down to individual opinion, and it's something that we have been reporting on here at WFLA, but that's just the nature of how it was determined to be unlawful assembly. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm not seeing too many other hashtag AJB comments, which means that we're going to be wrapping up our live stream. Appreciate everybody joining us here in the Stream Center. Any additional reporting on this? We've got Lenny Supal. We've got Nicole Rogers, two great reporters here at WFLA that were on the ground. Our talented photojournalist team on the ground as well, helping cover this, and all of their reports will be on WFLA.com. To everybody in our comment section who were respectful to their fellow viewers, really appreciate it as they commented along as we were watching this all unfold. I know it could be a difficult watch at times when you're watching just pure chaos unfold, and we've seen it with college campuses across the country, but appreciate our audience that we're able to chime in and try to have a constructive conversation in our comment section. Again, full details on this story on WFLA.com, top stories, breaking news, all of it on our website, on our app. Appreciate you. Be safe out there, folks, and we'll see you next time here from the Stream Center.